Welcome to this week's fun activities in five. This week, we're going to be talking about doing celebrations with your students. This is something that I have started this year that brings me joy in the classroom. It brings a lot of students joy. It gives me a way to connect with my students in a social emotional way and on a personal level. And the great thing is sometimes this takes 2 minutes. Sometimes it ends up being 30 minutes, and that's okay because we are in Spanish the entire time. And not only are we in Spanish the entire time, but I am asking questions, students are asking questions, they're communicating with me and with each other. And that's really what class is all about. So, this is how I do celebrations. I'm going to show you one of the slides that I use. You don't have to use a slide like this, but this is the one that I use with my students. Is there something that you want to celebrate today? And when it comes to this time, I usually just say, like, uh, is there something anybody wants to celebrate today? And usually I get a bunch of hands. And so when I get a bunch of hands, I go through and take volunteers. If I don't get any hands, or if I see that, like, we really need to get something today, or I know we're just not going to have time to spend 30 minutes on this, then I'll tell a student to get some numbers practice in, choose a number between 1 and 10, 15, whatever. And I'll use that number and I'll say, okay, today we're doing 5 celebrations. We're doing 8 celebrations. It's a good way to get some numbers practice. Um, so once I ask them, I start taking volunteers. I say, ¿Qué quieres celebrar? What do you want to celebrate today? And these are just some common things to give them something to say, because sometimes I do make all of my students give a celebration. For example, the day I'm recording this is the day after spring break. I will make every student celebrate something from the past 12 days. We've had 12 days out of school. Something good has happened to you in the last 12 days. So these are some options for them. They can celebrate somebody's birthday. I have one class where a student always looks up a famous person whose birthday it is. And so he'll say, it's the birthday of Rosa Parks. And then as a class, we'll guess, how old is she? Or how old is this person? Even if they're not alive, it's a good way to practice some bigger numbers. So the other day we had like George Washington's birthday. And I was like, okay, how old do we think he is? And we got to practice numbers like 200, 300, in a very low lift kind of guessing way. Celebrating winning games. So this is a good way to tie in school culture. Um, if I know there are students on the volleyball team or the football team or the basketball team, I can say, "Oh, did you play a game yesterday? Did you win the game yesterday? Did you win by a lot of points? Did you score any points?" As a way to kind of tie in something they want to celebrate and a little bit of what's going on in the school building. Getting good grades. Good grades are something we want students to feel good about. So they can tell me they got a good grade in a class, and it's a good opportunity for me to say, awesome, who else got a good grade in science class? What did you get a good grade on? And so they're getting lots of reps of these same structures, and they're getting them in the first person, the second person, the third person, the singular, the plural, because I'm going through and saying, oh, Susie got a good grade in science class. Who else got a good grade in science class? Oh, 8 people got a good grade in science class. Did anybody else get a good grade in science class? And it's a good way to kind of go through and get those reps of the different verb forms. Um, it's a good way to practice days of the week. I have a student in one class that every day their celebration is porque hoy es and the day of the week that it is. And that's awesome because they're getting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I have another student who will always say, because there are this many days until Saturday. And that's great. Or there are this many days until the weekend. We celebrate students finishing a book when they finish FVR. It's a great way to make them feel good. They can add their own celebration. A lot of students end up figuring out the past tense from gane, recibí, completé, and they start taking a little bit of leaps in the past tense, which is great because it's a good way for them to kind of work through that. So if you're looking for a fun way, a fun routine to add to your day to day in class, highly recommend celebrations. Super easy, low lift. You can use a slide like the one that I made, or you can make your own, or you can not use one at all. But it's a great way for students, even in low levels, to get lots of verb tenses and lots of verb forms, and for you to get to know your students. Thank you for joining me this week, and I will see you next time.